Hello and welcome to the weekly MG EVs podcast, streaming live today, Monday, the 7th of June, 2021. We're here to talk about the MG electric vehicles. We have the MG ZS, the MG5 and the MG HS, and we're hoping to inform and entertain you for about an hour or so. Tonight, we're talking about warm weather range. At last, we can start to enjoy the warm weather and enjoy more miles from our cars. We've got news from Norway, the world leaders in EV adoption, public charging price rises, and any other hot topics you would like to ask us about in the chat. So please take part in the chat on the YouTube chat timeline. I'm Stuart Whitman, username Stuart46 on the forum. And joining me in this episode are MG EV owners, Dave Stewart from Inverness in Scotland.
Hi everybody, I'm Dave S on the forum.
Then we've got John Griffiths from Oslo in Norway.
Hi, John G on the forum.
And then we've got Les Burrows for his second appearance on the pod from Wigan in England.
Hi, Les Burrows, same name on the forum, believe it or not.
And we've also got Miles Roberts from North Yorkshire, who's the Innovations Development Manager at Chorley Group.
Miles per kilowatt hour on the forum.
And then we've also got Dave Bell from the north of Birmingham in England as well.
Yep, that's FCAT 53 on the forum.
Okay, it's great to be joined by a new face. Dave, you're very welcome.
Dave
has also become a premium member, so many thanks for your support. And by the way, people who appear on the pod 3 times get given 6 months premium membership. If you're watching live, thank you for joining us, and please click the like button and say hello in the chat window. If you're watching later, thank you for choosing to watch this video, and please remember to subscribe to get a notification when we go live next time. In this podcast, we'll be talking about warm weather range and the news from Norway. Sorry, I'm repeating myself because the script has repeated it. So just before we start, I'll stop that. So just before we start, Dave, can you tell us a bit about yourself, where you are, how long you've been driving an EV, and what EV you're driving?
Yeah, I'm currently driving an MG ZS, great EV. I've had it for about 16 months now. I ordered it in very, very early August 19. I saw it first, I saw the press car with James and Kate. I went out to see that and have a go in it. Fantastic. I'm an EV owner for about 5 years now. Had a Leaf before that, 30 kilowatt hour one. But this is it's an upgrade in all ways, I think, on that car.
Yeah.
I'm a retired guy. Used to be a vehicle engineer, so I've got an interest there.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we'll start, I think, with like the good news of the weather arriving. So who wants to kick the ball off? How about Miles? You had a journey that you put on the forum today, haven't you?
Yeah, so today I thought in advance of the podcast, I thought I'd give it a go and see how our range did, and it was pretty good actually. I got it was around 19-20 degrees this morning. I set off, and I went from Skipton, North Yorkshire, across the Pennines over the A65 to Kendal, and then up from Kendal to Shap, and then across up to Penrith, and then back again. So it was around 75 miles each way. Actually, I got onto my driveway, the clock ticked to 150 miles exactly, which was quite good. And it had done that using about 56% of the battery. So 4.7 miles per kilowatt hour is what it's calculated it as. Now, one of the things actually I've noticed on the MGs is it calculates, and Dave Bell, you probably noticed this as well from having a Leaf before, it calculates differently to how it did in a Leaf. So on a Nissan Leaf, if you started at the top of a hill and drove downhill, assuming you'd reset your trip at the top, by the time you got to the bottom of the hill, it was saying like 99.9 miles per kilowatt hour because you've regened all the way down or freewheeled and it's just not used any power. The MGs don't do that. You basically start off with a default reading of about 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour. And then as you drive along, it takes longer to actually calculate. And I think it must only work it out based on the average power usage of the motor when the power's outgoing. I don't think it actually adds any back for your regen. So if you drive down a steep hill, you might, barely use any electricity at all, but it might still show it as being 4 miles per kilowatt hour, because effectively those times when you did put your foot on the accelerator, it was averaging out the total power usage for that cycle was 4 miles per kilowatt hour. As I compared to a Nissan Leaf, which would show, something astronomical, but probably
Show anything.
Well, the thing is, with the Leaf, it was. I think that's one of the reasons why the Gesso-meter in the MG is more accurate than the Leaf. Because in the Leaf, you'd go down a steep hill and it'd go, "Oh, you've got, you could carry on driving like this for the rest of the day, mate. Yeah, no worries at all." But it doesn't take account of the fact that at one point you're going to go below sea level and you're going to get wet. So it has to. And likewise, when you go up a hill on a Nissan Leaf, it'd go, "Oh, crikey, right, you're going up a hill now. This might never end." And it'd instantly say, "Oh, well, you could do 100 miles. You started going up a hill, it suddenly drops 50 miles. You get to the top of the hill, you start going back down the hill, and it says it can do 120 miles. It just recalculates stupidly. Whereas the MG, I find a lot more linear in terms of your range usage. It's a lot more, you can trust it an awful lot more than of other electric cars. So in my MG5 today, it was 20 degrees, so I turned off the air conditioning button, but I still left the fans on a fairly high fan output, so it was blowing air against my face, so I still felt cool in the car. By the time I got to Penrith, and I had 72% battery remaining, I think. So I'd only used 28% getting to, doing like 75 miles to Penrith. But then by the time I'd turned around and come back and go back home, I say total usage was, I think I had 43% left of it, 44% left of the battery when I got back. So I used 56 in total to do,
good going.
So, if I had, a lot more hours, I could have turned around and done, part of the journey again, tried to get it down to 0 range and see how much, I could actually get. I do think that 250 miles is possible in the MG5 fairly easily. And I think that if you were to really push it like I was today, I think that, probably 275, 300 miles, I think would be pushing it, because the last few miles you'd be driving on the electronic equivalent of fumes, and you wouldn't, have much visibility of your range remaining and things. But
with a huge queue behind you.
I was keeping up with the traffic all the way today. I didn't actually, I wasn't holding anyone up at all.
No.
I did get overtaken by a Porsche at one point, but I thought fair enough. I was actually doing 60 at the time when he overtook me on a 60 road. So I thought, I'll let him have that one. But in terms of, I was just driving it, trying to keep up with traffic, and just accelerating gently and braking gently, and obviously taking a slightly more scenic route rather than doing motorway and 70 miles an hour all the way. I came off at, rather than joining the motorway at Kendal, I went A597, is it, and then A6 to Shap. It's a beautiful road, and avoids the motorway until you get to Shap, which by that point you're at the top of the hill anyway. But it was a really nice drive out actually, and good to see what the car's capable of. The other day, this last week, my wife's been off work. She had some time off for the half term, and so her ZS, we used that a few days for going various places, and we charged it up eventually after a few days when she'd done about 120 miles of driving, and it's still showing sort of 45 miles range remaining. It hadn't come up with low battery warning or anything like that. So I thought, if she can get 160 miles out, and that was her not trying to drive carefully, she had the roof open, she had the windows open, she had boys in the car, we were going, here, there, and everywhere. So I think, the warm weather really is sort of bringing it to the point where you can get the WLTP mileage fairly easily, really.
What about Dave in Scotland? Have you?
I posted some fantastic figures, in my opinion. The bank holiday weekend, we went down to the Kintyre Peninsula down near Campbellton, where Paul McCartney made famous about 20 odd years or 30 odd years ago. Now, because we're driving right from Inverness right down the Great Glen and then round the coast and down, we were never going up very steep hills and for any prolonged period. And I was delighted. And the way down, we touched 4.9, which was great because it was, you know, a almost 200-mile journey. But I kept the accumulated total on all the way back and came back a more scenic route over the hills. I still returned, I think it was 4.7 for something like 480 miles, which I was chuffed with, and posted it fully expecting to win any mileage competition that was going for the time being, but only to be usurped by almost everybody. They are knocking out some fantastic figures just now. But yeah, similar. I had the aircon off completely, the fan off. I had the sunroof open, and at one stage it was fully open, and just opened the back windows by about half an inch, 3/4 of an inch, and that just gave a really nice airflow through the car, kept us nice and cool, made us feel young, wind blowing through my hair. I was so delighted with it. This weekend I was down to Edinburgh and was coming back, and I noticed, just one of these driver habit things, traffic around me was traveling faster, so I drove faster. And I noticed that in the Kintyre Peninsula Drive, my average speeds were only sort of like 35 to 40, whereas this one was 49. And the return was poorer. It was significantly poorer. I was getting about 3.5, 3.6. So it really does make quite a difference, because there's practically no difference in weather conditions. Going up and down some pretty steep hills, going the length of the A9. But oh no, the drive at Bank Holiday weekend, I was delighted with.
Good. And what about John in Norway then?
I haven't been doing that many long journeys. I think the most significant thing has been the increase in the gasometer in terms of it's been showing on eco with no air conditioning turned on, we're fully charged, to giving us a 336 of range.
That's kilometers, isn't it?
To 210 miles in the UK.
Yeah.
Before that, in the winter area time, we were getting about 275, something in that order. So there's obviously a significant range potential improvement when the battery is nice and warm. So based on, did a trip today of about 80 kilometers, and I would agree with Miles, the GOM's pretty accurate. If there was a criticism, it's the fact that you got 55 left and kilometers left, and there's only one bar left on the tank gauge. But certainly it bodes well if you're going to do any decent journeys and the temperatures in the the plus 20s.
Yeah, I found I think with mine, I do typical journeys as well. So you sort of see the difference, how the range doesn't come down, or sorry, it stays up if you like. But I noticed recently as well where the range, I can safely use it as a buffer. If it's say 20 miles or 30 miles to get home on the difference between the sat nav and the gasometer, it's brilliant because it tends to stay there. Sometimes you might need to just take your foot off the accelerator, but I think, as you've said, seems very accurate. But I know no different as well. So I didn't have, obviously, I've never had the Leaf experience, but so I guess you'd back that up then, Dave, would you, with the Leaf and the MG?
Absolutely. I've been really surprised at the difference. Was it last October? I was traveling down to an event, and it was slashing it down, and there was a wind in the front, into me all the way. I got about 95 miles out of it, and I was quite depressed at that point. But it charged up, and it was purely the fact you were driving into a wind. So even though I was only doing, say, 55, 60, I was actually doing about 80 into the wind. And that really makes a difference.
Yeah. Cool. Les?
Yeah, and also, what Miles has done today is basically what the car was, the MG5 anyway, was advertised at. It was advertised to do 214 miles generally and 276, I think it was. It was capable of. So basically today you proved the fact that it can do. You just said it's capable of 250 miles probably. But it is all dependent on weather and it's all dependent on the road conditions. When I went down to Buckinghamshire a couple of weeks ago, at 130 miles from home, after a full charge, the weather was horrendous all down the M6, the M40, the M40, the M42. The weather was horrendous, and it was just everything was going. The wipers was going, the missus was going, everything. And when I got down as far as Warwick services, I was looking for a charger because it was getting that way. I thought something's going to happen here, and not being that used to the car, was a little bit frightened of if this runs out, I'm in trouble. But I just kept going and going. It never did. It was fine all the way, and I got down as far as Banbury, which you probably know, Dave, and there's a massive installation there, brilliant. I just chopped it up there and away we went again. There's no problem at all. But it is very much weather dependent. You can see that, it's quite plain. It's very much so.
Nice to clarify, did you say the demisters were going or the missus was going?
I thought it said Mrs.
I wasn't quite sure.
No, the missus. The missus was snoring.
I heard that as the missus was going as well.
Keep it clean, guys.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a family show. I'm sure he said the misters.
But by the way, there's a comment on the chat from a guy, somebody called Jeff Cartwright, and he said he finds the GOM is on a 1-for-1 basis with range versus distance by and large. So that there's certainly, if it's wet, that will cause havoc with the range. But again, that when we talked earlier about that MG5 with Kate and James, which he borrowed from Miles, he was in horrendous.
He did very well with it, though.
He did, yeah. He was. Did he get 200 miles without any?
Well, he was fully loaded as well because he was doing about 5 or 6 services up and down the country, all over the place.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, a couple of hundred, 100 kilos or so of kit in the back of it, you know, in terms of tools and trolley jacks and things like that, and parts and so on. So I can actually see he had sent me some screen as he had it during the week. He sent me some sort of screenshots of how he was getting on, and called.
From what I could see, he just drove it like a normal car. He didn't. He wasn't playing about with regen, playing about with the eco and all this stuff. He just put it in and went, and that was it. Whatever he said to that, it just went, and he just kept going. And
that's very impressive.
I'm surprised there's not more on the road, really. I only saw my second one on the road. Bearing in mind, I do loads of, this is the 5, obviously. Bearing in mind, I do loads of miles. Don't see that many about. Anything on, there was a bit on the forum, somebody had over 6 kilowatts. Did anybody see that?
I seen that, yeah. As I say before, these oddballs where you get the odd one here and there, you've done like 25 miles, you've got 6 miles to the kilowatt hour and that. It's not consistent, is it? I mean, we'll all get, I mean, somebody that was coming down over Derbyshire somewhere, I think it was coming down over the street.
I did similar today. Yeah, I reset my trip at the top of Shap, and then came down the A6 to Burnside, and it was about 15 miles, and I was 6.3 miles per kilowatt on the thing.
Hell of a drop.
Basically, because it was downhill the entire time, and you know, I think I only used about sort of 3% getting down that hill.
That's some achievement there, isn't it?
Yeah. But I mean, say still from taking it on from Shap to my house, which was 65 miles in total. It can't all be downhill, and I still averaged 5.2, 5.3 miles per kilowatt. So it's obviously going downhill is obviously easier than going uphill. Going uphill slower and coming downhill faster tends to be the most efficient way to drive. In terms of, I was told that if you drive it a bit like you do if you're pedaling a bike, you wouldn't pedal like mad to maintain a speed up a hill and then use your brakes down the hill to slow you down. You'd try and sort of go, you go at a fairly steady pace, obviously up the hill, trying to not kill yourself, and then going down the hill, you'd let it gather speed and let it, gravity take hold. So what I tend to do today was to, knock my regen down to 1, or even knock it into neutral sometimes if it was a very slight incline, but not, level 1 regen would have been braking me too much. I actually knocked it into the neutral position a couple of times, and that then just lets it coast, and it doesn't use any energy. It just sort of keeps going. So it's yeah, there's some hypermiling techniques that can be used, but in terms of, does the car do what I want it to do? Yes, it does. Does it do more than I need it to do? Yes, really. I mean, I've had Leafs since 2015, so I do, the 24 kilowatt hour Leaf, then the 30, then the 40, 62 briefly, and then I've had the MG ZS and the MG5, and it's like the other day on Saturday we went to an event at Manchester Airport, and in my first 24 kilowatt Leaf, it's 65 miles from my house to Manchester Airport. In the first 24 kilowatt Leaf, I got to Manchester Airport with flashing warning battery light and fine charge now and all the rest of it, and it was horrendous. And then in the MG5 the weekend, there was me and my wife and another couple. We got all the way to Manchester Airport, and we had 70% remaining on the battery when we got there. So I was like, well, yeah. My mate was like, he's got V8 Range Rovers and stuff, and he's like, oh, we can have enough range in this car, blah blah, and we get there, and I was like, we've got 70% left, mate. He says, oh, how much did it cost you to charge it? I said, well, probably about £1.20 when I get home. When we're doing the full journey, about £1.20.
Yeah.
He's getting 16 miles per gallon out of his SVR Range Rover. So,
and you look far cooler in that 5 as well, wouldn't you?
Obviously, yeah. A lot of people. It was a lot more exclusive in the car park.
Exactly. Yeah. I see fewer MG5s than I do Ferraris, I think. Just goes to show, doesn't it?
It's Stuart, there's something in the chat there that you and I should be all over. Keith George has asked, is anybody monitoring their HV battery coolant temperature? Now, I'm sure, Stuart, you're doing that each and every day, aren't you?
What does HV mean?
So I'm going to ask the daft laddie question. How the hell would you do that?
Oh, so you can actually. I'll put something up again. I've got a fully functioning Torque Pro dashboard, even down to showing the amount of charging time, and that's a little bit off track.
Wow.
But the battery temp is quite easy. So what I'll do is I'll post up on that OBD thing with a list of the various PIDs, as they're called, and they should also work for the MG ZS. So it's quite good. So that's really the only way you can monitor it, or with the OVMS thing.
If it's any consolation to Dave and Stuart, I've got a dongle and I haven't plugged it in yet. I haven't done anything with it, and I don't know. I haven't tried. Okay, so despite having various degrees and certificates to do with hybrids and electric vehicles and stuff, I haven't done anything with it. So yeah, HV battery coolant temperature. You can do it, but you need a bit of kit. It's not visible on the dashboard, so you'd need the dongle.
Yeah.
No, that one has gone above my head, to be perfectly honest.
So it just means that how warm is the battery, basically.
Okay.
So the HV is the high voltage battery, and the coolant temperature would give an indication of how warm the cells are, hopefully, with it being liquid coolant. But
you actually can get the cell temperature for each pack. I think there's 9 packs, if I remember correctly, and you get the cell temperature for all of them, but the battery temperature is like an average. Because I've done like a cell balance, you can get a cell balance between it, but if you do the average of all the packs, you'll get a closer approximation of what the balance is. But I'm more than happy to send you the PIDs. It seems to work quite well.
Once you've got that information, John, can you do anything with it? Is it going? Can you say I've got to ease off or I've got to speed up or what?
No, the problem is if you could get it to display any infotainment screen like you do with Android, then you could have it on. One of the neat ones actually is that you can see one of the dashboard elements I've got. You can do the fan. So if you turn the fan, it will change from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So without looking at with the screen coming on and off. So it's the only problem with these dongles is that if you leave them in and lock the car, the alarm goes off. I don't know whether OVMS have done it. My wife said, "Oh God, you stuck that bloody dongle in again. The car's howling.
Oh, God.
Anyway, that was a bit off the.
I must admit as well, I didn't. We had friends over on Saturday, and he's got an e-golf that he's had for probably about 2 years now. He absolutely loves it, and he asked me, do I have coolant in the battery? And I haven't got a clue. I didn't know there was coolant in the battery.
Yeah.
I guess yeah. So is there ever, and this on a more serious note, because I don't know, but is there a temperature that it wouldn't operate at? Could it get too hot?
No, so not with the liquid coolant system we've got in the MGs. So with the Nissan Leaf, that had a passively cooled pack. What that basically means is that the cells are dry. The only thing that cools them is airflow over the battery. So if you're driving along, then theoretically cold air blowing underneath the car would cool the battery down. What you tend to find, though, in the UK is that the motorway gets hot. That means that it's radiating heat into the battery. That means if you're doing a long motorway journey in Nissan Leaf, the battery gets warmer rather than cooler. And as you're discharging the battery fast, that makes it warm. And then if you're charging it on a rapid charge, that makes it hotter. And so what you had this problem with the Nissan Leaf was that the battery would get too warm. And the way that it protects itself is that it then limits the power it can accept on a rapid charge. And in extreme circumstances, it can also limit the power it can put out to the motor as well. So what you'd find is that if you were doing a long journey that would perhaps take several rapid charges, like I've got a friend who had a 30 kilowatt hour Leaf and drove to Edinburgh and back because his son was at university there from Skipton. So he went, and by the time he got to Edinburgh, the battery was already warm because he'd had to charge 2 or 3 times on the way. And then he was just there dropping some bits off or whatever, and then he turned around and come back. And so by the time he got coming back, he could only get charging battery, sort of 20 kilowatts charge rate into the battery.
Okay.
And at some points, it was getting to the point where, as well as taking a long time to rapid charge, it was also then limiting the power. So if you went to overtake it, it'd suddenly kill the power on the top end.
I had the same issue when I went to the Outer Hebrides from Midlands. That was interesting, to say the least. By the time I was on about the 4th charge, it was down to 20 kilowatts.
Yeah, and it became a bigger problem on the bigger battery cars. So on the 40 kilowatt hour Leaf, it could charge for longer, it could drive for longer, but the cells were more tightly packed into the battery case. So there was less air around them for them to cool down. So they tend to find that, you do 1 or 2 charges and it was a problem. But
they haven't got liquid cooling, they want the Nissan.
No,
sorry?
passive cooling.
Passive cooling, yeah. Yeah, so whereas the MG has got liquid cooling like Teslas do, which really helps the battery to, A, keep itself cool, which helps with rapid charge speeds and things like that, but it also means that it helps with the longevity of the pack. It's thought that having a liquid cooled pack will make the battery last longer in terms of years of usage and miles it will get. So yeah, it seems it gets up to about sort of mid-30s in terms of degrees centigrade, does the pack, but then it cools it down again. So you don't see like 90 degrees like you do on a water system on an engine, for example, but it gets to a mild sort of 30 to 40 degrees and then it cools it down. Battery cells like being a similar temperature to us, really. They prefer to be around sort of 20-25 degrees. Anything much more than that, it's a bit warm for them. Anything much colder than that, they don't act optimally either. So the current weather we've got with this heat wave of 20 degrees is quite ideal, really.
Yeah. So
I think that would answer that question that I think who put one up. It was Keith George wondered if you'd seen the correlation between temperature and GOM. And I think what we've talked about is absolutely the case, that the warmer it is, the greater the distance you're going to see in the GOM. So it's not a fixed, in a sense, WLTP value. That value is fluctuating due to the voltage in the pack, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So as we're talking about charging, before we come on to John's news from Norway, shall we go with the public charging pricing? The increases, how do we feel about that? Anyone? Oh, sure, Dave, you're not very happy with that, are you, Dave from Scotland?
I feel as if I'm the stereotypical Scot here.
You act like it, that's why.
Anyway, we're being much maligned as a nation here. This is awful. Charge Place Scotland obviously operate hours, and there's another Swarco update again tomorrow that I'll tune into. There's a webinar about how that's going. I've got a very, I'm looking at Miles here, a very non-Scottish viewpoint on this. I will gladly pay for my charges as long as the charger units work. I am getting so hacked off at turning up for a rapid charge and it doesn't recognize my card. You recognize your card and then it won't speak to the car or whatever. There are a number of reasons why it won't give you a rapid charge. It'll give you an AC, but not a rapid. So my viewpoint is I will gladly pay a moderate sum, not a handsome fee, but a moderate sum for a charge, as long as I've got a fair confidence that I'm going to get a charge. I did a thread on it about going over the north of Scotland, part of the North Coast 500. Really, for there to be 120 miles, that 4 chargers in that 120 miles, and none of them would give you a charge. That's shocking.
Mm.
Swarco, are taking over next month. I just hope they know what they're taking on, because it does seem to be quite a depleted stock. But
what they've done,
and we're noticing up here as well. Sorry, Miles?
Swarco's taken over in Manchester, Greater Manchester. So they've got experience of taking out CYC and putting in new units. And to be fair, what they've done in Manchester seems to be working. So if they can replicate that in Scotland as well, I think that will work very well.
Yeah.
I agree with everything in terms of, I would happily pay for a charge rather than a flatbed. It's I think that it's such a, and as well with batteries getting bigger and with range getting bigger, and it's like if it's a panic purchase at a time when you need it and you just want to be able to rely on it. So it's like motorway services. You'll pay £6 for a cheese and ham sandwich at a Dwight Smith's in a motorway services because you're hungry and it's the option that you've got without going way off the motorway. So, in the same way, I would pay 69 pence at a Ionity charger if it was the charger I needed that there was no alternative to. If there was, I'm not going to, berate myself that it's going to cost me for this one journey. It's going to cost me an extra £5 to charge the car because I'm not doing it every day.
No.
If I was doing it every day, if my daily, if I had no home charging and all my daily charging was done on public networks, I probably would be a bit more selective about who I choose to use, and where I would choose. And probably, the Yorkshireman in me would try and find the cheapest possible charger that was least inconvenient. There's got to be a price matrix somewhere.
Get on it, Tim. Go on.
Inconvenience of charger and the cost, and they've got some. There'll be a sweet point, won't there, to meet somewhere. But I think that you've got to pay for charging for it to be sustainable.
Yeah.
We've put chargers in at work, and I've actually got a meeting tomorrow about one of our branches getting some upgraded chargers, and it's a massive investment for us. The rapid chargers we put a rapid charger in at Blackpool is £25,000 plus £17,000 to increase the on-site electricity supply to be able to do the rapid charger. And then we don't charge people to use it, and we use it to charge our demonstrator. We use it to charge customers' cars that are in for service and cars before they're handed over and so on. And then you get somebody coming, in a car that they bought elsewhere or whatever, and they're coming and they say, oh, can you move your demo, please? I need to charge my car. And you say, well, we need to charge ours as well, to be fair. And it was I could see the point. Nissan did this thing where they said, if you had a Nissan Leaf, you could charge at any Nissan dealer for free, which was a fantastic sales point for the customer, but a massive headache for us. Because it was okay when we sold one Nissan Leaf a week. It was a fairly sustained, we could do that because they wouldn't, they'd only come in once every, blue moon, and we wouldn't need to charge them often. But there was a select people. We had somebody who bought their car from a dealer, which is now closed down. Actually, they bought it from Nissan in Blackburn, which is now closed down. But they lived in Preston, and they would come to our Preston branch every day because they didn't have a home charger. They had a terraced house, didn't have a home charger. We sold the car by Blackburn and sold, it's okay, you can charge at Preston for free. So this guy was coming and using our charger for an hour a day.
Did you give him a coffee?
I was going to say.
Like we had one person, she came to, she bought a car from Blackburn, she came to Burnley branch like 2-3 times a week, and she'd help herself to about 3 or 4 fruit shoots from the fridge and a coffee.
New Wi-Fi.
And I was like, and she'd sit there reading our papers and on our Wi-Fi and all the rest of it, and then she'd go, and it's like she wouldn't come to us for servicing, she wouldn't come to us, we got literally nothing out of this relationship whatsoever, apart from the fact that it made it slightly more inconvenient for us to actually get our customers' cars ready on time. So I think that there has to be a charge to prevent that freeloading.
Yeah.
Because if we had a sign outside saying all Nissan customers or all MG customers come to Chorley Group in Burnley, we will give you a gallon of petrol for free, there'd be a queue around the block. There'd be a queue, onto the motorway and down because people are tight. Even in Lancashire, I mean, it's over the border from Yorkshire, they still inherit some of our tightness, I think. And maybe they're sort of in this sort of matrix where they've got Scotland above, and but sort of hemmed in from all sides by tight people. But in terms of in terms of us actually using it as a business plan, it's just not possible for us to offer free charging. And when the charger broke at Burnley, because the CHAdeMO cable got damaged, and it was £3,000 for replacement CHAdeMO cable for the charger, and we had to wait 6 months for it to come from the supplier in Italy because they didn't have any stock in the UK. The number of negative reviews we got left on Google and on Zap Maps and on all these things, that we were personally responsible for, why is this charger not working? Why don't it's £3,000 for us to fix it. You don't pay anything to use it anyway. We're trying to get the part and we can't. It's it's a massive inconvenience for us as well. So I think that there's you've got to charge at a reasonable rate for the cost of the unit. I think 35 pence, 40 pence per kilowatt hour is fair enough, to be fair. For a rapid charger. I think that for a slow charger, probably more in the range, 20 pence maximum, I think, is probably about where I'd want to be for a 7 kilowatt charger. But I see that we've had Instabolt have had to increase the price because of VAT reasons.
Yep.
And then
Osprey
Pulse, ChargeMaster has increased all their prices as well. Quite drastically in some cases. I've got a subscription for BP Pulse. I think I'll be cancelling it because I can't see. I mean, at the moment I use it probably less than once a month anyway. The only reason I use it is because the RFID card tends to work better than the app.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to be paying, 27 pence a kilowatt hour on top of £7.85 a month, it's going to be. It means that once or twice a year that I'm actually using it, it's actually cost me sort of 60 quid for a charge. So
Osprey are actually swallowing the cost for a short time. They are increasing it, but they're actually swallowing the VAT for they said a short time.
Mm-hmm.
Who's that, Dave?
Osprey.
Osprey, yeah.
Osprey.
Osprey Network, yeah.
Oh, okay.
The funny part of all this is when I first started looking into an EV some 12 months ago or so, my son said to me, he's had EVs for several years now. He said to me, he said the eco-electricity, you find it quite expensive on the motorway, about 30 odd pence a kilowatt hour. And this it's ridiculous what they charge for eco-electricity. And yet now, eco-electricity is basically one of the cheapest. Getting there, it's definitely getting there. And if they keep coming out with this system like they've got at Rugby now, this new charging station, which you've got a picture in the background there, Dave, I can see. Yeah, I've been there. I went there the first week it was open. Brilliant system, absolutely superb system, and it's 30p a kilowatt hour. Quick, very, very quick, unbelievably fast.
You guys seem to have it quite a little bit cheaper than we have in Norway because the tariffs are based on a per minute price that you sat at the charger. and then also so much per kilowatt hour. So it's about 36 pence, 38 to 40 pence a kilowatt here in Norway. And the cheapest option, depending on how much you drive, of course, is Ionity. But that's £15 a month for the subscription. But then you're only paying approximately 15 pence a kilowatt. So again, if it's a company thing, if you're driving an EV for company purposes and they're paying all your charges, then Ionity is a good bet, or anything with a subscription. And obviously, if you can't charge at home, then really it's. So I'm quite surprised to see that your prices are. And are those prices that are shown in the public charging prices, Stuart? Are those the ones with or without that?
With that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've just cancelled my membership with Ionity because they automatically renew after 12 months, and it's fixed for 12 months, so you can't get out of it. But certainly the one behind Dave, I saw a video of that, and it's certainly a big step in the right direction.
It's absolutely brilliant.
I really was spoilt over here with the number of around me now within a 5-kilometer radius. I think there's probably 20 to 25 150 kilowatt, 200 kilowatt charges, and God knows how many 50 kilowatts.
Wonderful.
I think when we're looking at the prices, I'm just doing a few bits of maths there. If it's 30 pence per kilowatt, as it sort of suggests that we got, if you look at 30p and you're on 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour, if you spend £3, that gives you 35 miles. If you spend 6, that gives you 70 miles. If you take a gallon of diesel, it's getting on for £6. It still comes out at 70 miles for a convenient charge, doesn't it? So it's not extortionate. It's quite a reasonable.
Not at all. No, I just don't think it's worth me paying the £7.85 a month subscription.
No, definitely not.
As well, I think again, when I had a Nissan Leaf with a much shorter range, I was using the rapid charge a lot more often.
Yeah.
Now, as I've shown today, I don't need to rapid charge. Unless I'm doing more than 200 miles, and even if I do, what's the chance it's going to be a pulse one? It might be an Ionity or an Instavolt or a Ecotricity or whatever. So
yeah, for sure.
The last long journey I did the other week cost me. That same journey normally would cost me around about £47, £48 for diesel when I had the diesel, when I had the Superb. That would have cost me between £47 and £48 for diesel, there and back. And I did the trip in the MG5, the first long journey I'd done in the MG5, and including my charging costs at home, the charging costs on the road at Banbury and at the grid serve place coming back, and some money that I left for the people who were staying with me were charged up there while I was down there. The whole lot for over 500 miles. It didn't cost me more than £22. So it was less than half the price, basically, of what the diesel was. Less than half the price. And then everything else on top of it, you've got road tax and everything else got second consideration. That's sort of like £180 a year for road tax, and it's all mounts up. So yeah, I don't think, as Dave said originally, I'm quite happy to pay whatever the rate is, as long as it's not extortionate, as long as the things are working and there's enough of them.
Yeah.
I mean, that grid serve place, the one at Banbury, the next one they're opening, I believe, is just south of Oxford. It's going to be opening in a couple of weeks' time, I believe. Somewhere just south of Oxford. I can't remember the name of the place it's up in yet. And that's the next one they're building, and then they're starting to work their way further up northwards. So I don't know how far they're going to come in the next 12 months or 6 months or whatever. I don't know, but they're certainly spending a lot of money on it.
Like you say, I think one of the main things is if you're getting the service and they're working, and even if the customer service, if they're not working correctly, a good customer service, you don't mind paying for it, do you? I guess, and also I guess I home charge, and from what you said about constantly rapid charging isn't so good for the battery anyway, is it? So
I think as long as you don't go over 80%, probably is.
okay.
And anyway, for the majority of people, the charge level effect falls off off the cliff. Then there's no point in charging perhaps above 75% for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a myth, the not charging up to high rates, because the battery management system sorts that out mostly. You can charge at high rates up to 90-95% quite happily. If you see the rate drop off, it drops off to like 15 kilowatts above 85-90%.
Yeah. To protect it.
But by the way, Miles, I'm in the same boat as you. I've got a card I've had for 4 years now, 5 years, and I'm considering just being it because of the increase in the number of charging points with contactless, which is for me just as good. You just go up,
that's the way forward.
Finish.
So Dave, is that contactless just with any credit card or whatever? It's not a membership card.
No, you can
The
go.
only thing you've got to watch with that was, as it's been pointed out before, Pod Point, when I first did one on Pod Point, the first time I ever did it, there was a £30 charge that they took out of my account. But for doing that charge, the first one, and then I did it, I tried to do it again because I didn't think it was working right, and it finished up doubling it. And I thought, what's going on here? And then I realised, because right to the bottom of the pump was a little sign saying a £30 charge would be taken, a holding charge, which I hadn't seen because I got there, the sun, it was in bright sunlight, I didn't see it, the screen, I couldn't read the screen for the sun. And I'm trying to see what's going on, and then I spotted this at the bottom and I thought, what's all that about? It took me about 2 weeks to get that money back. Now, it's okay for me, but some people may be subbing with that kind of money, if you say just like that. That's the thing I watched with the contactless. I mean, the first time I did it on Ecosystem was local because I was just trying out with the car, just making sure everything worked, and I had it right and I could do it. But when I did make a journey, I went on an Instavolt, the first one I ever went on, which was at McDonald's restaurant in town, not 5 miles away from me. And I went up to that contactless, threw it on, no problem. I just put £10 worth in. That's all I put in, 35 kilowatt, banged it in, and it finished, and that was the end of it. And then when I got home, I had a look at my account. It had took £5 out the first time. Well, that's all it had took out. I took out the money for the charge, the £3.50, just took £5 out, the holding fee. So I thought, I don't know what's happening here. And then the following morning, they just took out what I'd spent, £3.50, and the £5 was in my back in my account the following day. So the second time I did it on Instavolt, it didn't do that. It just took what I used for charging. Whether it was just checking my card, my debit card or whatever, I don't know. But it didn't do it the second time.
I had an interesting one the other day. I think I was on an Instavolt, and I charged. I was only for like literally 10 minutes. I charged on my way back from a trip out. I was just worried that I didn't have enough miles, so I just popped in. Had to take a comfort break, plugged in, did go to the toilet, come back, unplugged, and it actually warned me that my account had been suspended after I got the electricity, and I had an email from, it was Instavolt, to say that my account was suspended until I top it up. So I didn't realise, but I didn't have as much as I thought in the not on hold, but on the Instavolt account.
I never opened an account with them, Stuart. I never bothered it.
I registered with them and I put like a tenner on credit, but then like I say, it asked me, so I topped it up and it was fine. I just put another tenner on it, so it's fine. Have we got any comments about this topic? Anybody, before we move on to Norway and how things are going in Norway?
I can just see people saying that a number of chargers that the Instavolt and Osprey tend to be most reliable. Customer service seems okay, but I suppose most people at the moment, again, not using these networks day to day because of COVID restrictions on movement of people and things like that. And that's true. Like we said before, if people have got home chargers, they don't necessarily need to use the rapid chargers that often. So I think that it's probably something we're going to see more with people as we shift towards more and more people having electric cars. There's going to be a there's going to be a point at which people don't have home charging, are reliant on public chargers more often, and there are going to be perhaps more issues as a result of that. But hopefully by that point we'll have beta tested the network for everybody, so that these problems should be few and far between. I think that the only other thing I was going to say, what we see on the Chris Morrison said that the lack of contactless and ease of use on the majority of networks is a barrier to entry for lots of people. It's true. We've had issues where we've had customers who are on Motability taking the ZSEV, for example. And if you've got a car on Motability, it's generally because you've got some sort of physical or mental impairment and things like that, that you require assistance with. And some of these, telling them they need to download this app to see where the charges are, download another app to be able to access the charge, need to pre-register an account using an email address and then pre-authorize their card for a certain amount. It is a pain in the proverbial. I think that, Les, like you're saying, if you can do contactless, it's so much easier. You would yourself go to, with your old Skoda, you'd have gone to any petrol station in the country, confident that you were able to buy the fuel that was on sale there, that you knew how much money you had, you knew how much it was going to cost you, and you'd go and you just, whether you had cash, card, whatever, you'd go and you pay. You wouldn't have to have a Tesco club card just to be able to buy fuel at Tesco. You wouldn't have to have a Morrison's Miles card just to get fuel at Morrison's. You wouldn't have to have, an Asda credit card to be able to get fuel at Asda. So I think that we need to move towards contactless. I know that on the AC charging side of things, it's a problem because the cost of using contactless is often higher than the actual cost of the electricity they'll get back sold. You might have like a 50 pence transaction fee effectively for just using contactless from the card provider. So if they, if the customer plugs in and it's 20 pence kilowatt hour and they just plug in for half an hour, you might, with the cost of electricity, you're not going to make anything on it and you're probably going to make a loss. So that's the thing that's holding them back on, I think, on the slow charging side. Rapid chargers, it can be incorporated into the cost, I think, a bit easier. But I've got a wallet I've got a separate wallet with all my charging cards in, and I've got, I think, probably 10 now, which is ridiculous. But I've just got them all in case I happen to need one of them.
Yeah, I've got about half a dozen.
Yeah, and I think I've got
one.
I've got some which I've got a main Gal card from Germany, just because at one time they're doing a special rate on Ionity.
Yeah.
I've got I've got the subscription for BP Pulse. I've got the card for CYC. I've got the card for Swarco, the new one. I think I've got a card for Hubster, which I've never used, but I got one once. I thought, well, it might come in useful. I've got a card for Osprey. Got a card for, and so it's just like, and then I've also got 10 apps on my phone as well. So it's like, it should be a lot easier, and it has to be easier for people to have mass adoption, I think.
Can you register one RFID with all of these suppliers? That's what in most cases we can do here. You've still got to put your credit card into to that one company, but
no, there's not much interoperability at the moment. Octopus is trying something with their card where they've only got access to about 3 of the networks, which invariably means that you still need the other 6 cards.
ZapPay were trying something as well, weren't they?
Yeah, it's like that old thing,
yeah.
We've got 5 competing standards. So what should we do? I know I'll come up with one standard that will support everything. We now have 6 competing standards.
Yeah.
So it's
I think that Map's tried to do that in some way with the ZapPay system.
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah. So it's all.
I think it's ZapMap who's trying to do something along that line where you can go to any charger, you pay it through ZapPay. Somehow or other, I've not been into it in any detail, but that's something that's happening.
Yeah. Yes, they're trying that. Octopus trying.
Over here, a lot of people get a discount. So if you're a member of the AA, for example, or equivalent, you can get, or if you're in a housing society thing, you get so much. So that's one way of reducing. So you can get up to 20% discount on some of them by doing that. But in most cases, the same RFID can be. We have an organization in Norway for electric cars, and they send out a pack. If you buy a new car, you'll get, like the one behind, we got a pack with free membership for a year, and included in it was an RFID. And all of the charging companies support that, but you've obviously got to register it. But it's still for each of these, you've got to put your card details in, even though you've got a single RFID, you know?
The thing that's upsetting me at the moment is a lot of the Scottish local authorities are now charging. So my previous comment, that's fine. But a lot of them don't tell you what the charge is. They just say, this charge point now charges. For our charges, look up the website. I'm not going to look up a website where I'm standing waiting for a charge. So that's a bit disingenuous, in my opinion. And Miles, when you said
on the pump, surely it should be on the pump saying how much it is.
No, a lot of them, nothing saying, just for charges, look up our website.
That's ridiculous.
That's it. Miles, when you said earlier your wallet was full of, I thought it was going to be money, but obviously it's just charge cards.
All those MG5 sales that he's not
Yeah.
isn't
I'd just like to reiterate, I'm not on commission. It's a shame. I would have done quite well, but no, I'm not on commission. I'm
Keep saying it and you'll believe it. And we might as well.
getting only 100%. I get no commission. I just get my basic £400,000 a year salary. That's all.
That's it, yeah. My heart bleeds for you, Miles. It really does.
Yeah. And that
Mark,
range
just
you
going
don't.
back to your trip yesterday where you got this fantastic mileage. Your car's not been tuned in some way slightly different to mine, has it? Some way or other. You have some sort of updates on the side that we don't know about.
No.
There's a clue in the title. It's Innovations and Development Manager, isn't it?
I just got my car direct from China, from the special guy at the factory that winked at me and nodded. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same car as everybody else. And
Twin battery.
Just everyone's got the 8 kilowatt battery, haven't they?
The one that fell off a junk.
Yeah. Is it?
So the 10 kilowatts in the battery that we don't get.
Has access to the top buffer.
I love that question. I don't know if you get it from people that are curious, and they say about have you got a spare battery that you can plug in when you, and they seem to think you've got a battery in the boot. Maybe that's what you've got, Miles, isn't that?
Generator.
Yeah, my friend was saying that the same thing the other day when the Range Rover guy was like, so he says, there's no engine at all on this then.
No.
He says, like, it's what happens if it runs out? So it runs out. That's it, it just runs out. But he actually made an interesting point, which I thought I haven't actually looked recently. He said that apparently petrol's gone up about 10 pence a litre in recent
Loads.
weeks. Yeah. And I honestly don't look anymore. I haven't looked at petrol station, pricing for so long. And I saw one today, I went, oh, crikey. Because there was a time when obviously the petrol price got down to about £1 a litre, and I was having some conversations with people like, oh, well, yeah, if you rapid charge it all the time, it's going to work out the same cost of the diesel. But actually now, literally with my off-peak tariff and all the rest of it, I'm paying like £1.80 to fully charge my car. And it's like,
You're lucky though, Mark. Your wife drives an EV as well. Mine's still driving a nice car. And now and again, when I get in, it's always empty, and I've got to go through.
Yeah, I got my wife converted.
I don't think what I could do. I don't ever want to put a pump into a car again. No, so we don't even rent cars on holiday any longer. I'm so averse to it.
Yeah, no, I noticed that
No way I go back to nice. No way.
diesel's up to 135 a litre. I saw today, which comes out at just over £6 a gallon, I think. So I look at them because I like to gloat.
You're in your head just going, £1.35 a litre. So that would, in my old work, that would have driven about 7 miles.
Exactly. Then that's the way to look at it, isn't it? Right, let's finish up then with John. So any news from Norway? Do you want to...
As I said last month, we have this release of car sales and what the top 10 is. I'll just share my screen and put that up if it's not. Is it okay? Not cluttering up too much?
No.
Yeah. So basically, the Mustang Marquee hit they brought in a big boatload. They've been delayed in the US because of various software problems, and that was the big winner in May with 1,380 cars registered. The MG is still hanging in there. It's down to 195 in row 18 here, but with January to May sales of 1,242. I think they also sold around about 50 of the plug-in HSs. But whether people are hanging in there and waiting for the Marble R and news on that, I tried to get information from a contact I have here, and they are indicating it's going to be delayed because of this chip problem. Yeah. But the other cars are more or less in the same order. So at the moment, the MG is ranking for 21, is number 12, and it's dropped down. It was 10 last month, and it's dropped down from about 13th place. So whether they're going to come out with any incentives, I don't know. But 60.4% of cars sold in Norway were electric. So,
it's amazing, isn't it?
and they've just released the first Audi e-tron, the smaller one that's based on the same platform as the ENIAC and the ID4 has just been released. So we'll probably see some increase in those sales. And if you remember last month, Miles, there were very few Model 3s sold. So that jumped quite a bit to 504 in row 6. But
where's the Model S, John? Sorry, where's the Model S?
The Model S, hardly any being sold because there's a facelift on that being released in the US now, and that sales have just dried up completely. And similarly with the Model X,
Yeah.
they don't figure any longer in the sales statistics. So I doubt very much if they sold 20 or 30 Model S's or Model X's, if any, perhaps in May. But interestingly enough, you can see the RAV4 is an exceptionally popular hybrid in Norway, and as well as the good old Corolla down here. and the Leaf is certainly plodding along quite happily. But it's still quite amazing to see how many of these expensive ones are being sold, like the EQC in row 10, and of course the e-tron. But we had a big shock this week. There's potentially going to be a governmental change in Norway this year if the polls are right. And one of the parties is now saying that all electric cars over about 50,000 £50,000, you're going to have to pay MOMS on the VAT on the difference. So that was a big hit this morning in the newspapers to highlight that. So we'll see where we are next month, but it's a pity that the Marble R has all gone quiet, and whether that we get some information this month. Originally they were supposed to release the prices for it in June, and if that comes in at a price that is in the timing of when the MG5 is supposed to be released. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cars there that aren't for sale in the UK as well, isn't there? Most of them are, aren't they?
Most of them are, yeah. I think this 60.4% of cars, again, it's all back to the infrastructure. If you are going to go do a lot of driving and you can't charge and you plug in, I agree with Dave that you've got to have conformity where it does work, and if you're paying a reasonable price. But it's a huge, as Miles said, it's a huge investment to put in a batch of 200 or 150 kilowatt chargers. And when I drive down the road and I see that they're empty, I just wonder what the return on investment is, how many years they think it's going to take before they're actually going to pay for themselves, you know? It's not an investment for the faint-hearted. So you just need to get the take-up of electric cars going in the UK. But as we've said time and time again on this pod, if you haven't got the infrastructure, then it's a huge turn-off for people. Yeah. Okay, I'll stop sharing now. That was the news from this neck of the world.
It's useful. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where we are. I look at the SMMT data now and again, so maybe next week we'll pull that up and see what's going on in the UK. I'll make a note of that and see
You might get a surprise when you see how many ID3s and ID4s and ENIACs have been sold, but it's what you see on the road. If you notice them, if you see your Nissans and you see your MGs, but what else is predominantly driving around if you took a trip down the motorway?
I've seen a lot more ZSs, but I don't know. I haven't worked out as they're coming towards you whether it's an EV or
it's difficult to sell, so they get on top of you.
Or it's a Mazda.
Yeah, or the Mazda. Yeah, they're all for sure. Okay, right. Anything else, or was that it from Norway, John?
No, that was about it. They say it's Western Front.
Dave, anything do you want to go through with regard?
Maybe topics to pick up for forthcoming weeks. I've been looking at some of the threads and what's picking up most of the noise on the recent threads. Quite a concerning one: Motor Fault Consult Handbook, and this was posted by my KG, and getting an alarming banner up. And some folk are suggesting he just unplugs his 12-volt battery. But he's saying where I was, I couldn't do that. I didn't know 2 kit or whatever. So it's at about 27 folk chipping in. So that's good. And new owner startup bongs. I thought that was the thing of the past, but somebody's still getting the bongs somehow. I don't know. Are MG still selling pre-Comfort 2 bong cars?
They should be coming through and PDI'd. If there's any old ones in stock, they should be PDI'd and updated with Comfort 2, but not all dealerships are the same.
No, indeed. And another one just is a Comfort 3 update, which is very similar to our Santa list that we had a few weeks ago. But
I would say that that's probably unlikely for the current models that are on sale. However, some of that feedback's been put forward to MG, so that will hopefully result in future cars being improved.
Yeah, and maybe we'll pick up on some of the older updated threads next week and etc. But we do watch to see what's being said.
There was one which was the miles per kilowatt hour one, started by Beekeeper MG5. Is that the one that's been going on for some time? Les, you might know because you're on the forum quite a bit, aren't you? Is that the one where everybody keeps contributing?
There's a lot of contributors on that. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on it. But,
it's really good, isn't it?
It is pretty good. Yeah, it is pretty good. There's quite a few that's floating around the forum at the moment, which are quite interesting. The latest one I came across this week was a new home charger called Hypervolt, I think it was called, which looks very, very interesting. I basically said, I put on the forum, I put a little video on the forum, and I basically say that it's very similar to the Zappi, only perhaps not being able to do the same sort of solar input that the Zappi does, where it takes nothing but solar. I don't know. I've not been into it that deep, but there's been quite a few comments coming through on that one. And yeah, there's a few things on that's good at the moment. I watched an interesting one yesterday. A chap and his daughter, I think he's called the Electric Light on the YouTube channel. I'm not sure, but he went on a bit of a road trip, and he went to Rugby, to the thing behind Newgate. This must have been sometime last week. And when he got there, he was queuing to, well, he thought he was going to be queuing to get onto a charger. There's that many others to charge. Unbelievable how it's just woof, took off that thing is unbelievable. And they still, the longer they get them built, the faster they get them built, the better. The more and more they get built, the better. Definitely for everybody. I think that will change the, as John was just saying, we've got to get the infrastructure right in the UK before we start selling more cars, which is true, we will. And I think if this carries on the way it's going, I reckon 18 months and this will take off, quite honestly, personally.
We'll see. Right, okay. Also, there's another one that's got a bit of traction that Stuart Wright put on there some time ago about what car did you replace with your MG? It'd be quite interesting. Maybe we've had 79 replies, so maybe in weeks to come we can see where people are coming from. What did they have? Just to see if there's quite a diverse range or if there's a pattern. So perhaps we can look at that as well. So which car? So anybody that gets on the forum, just put a bit on there. I think I've contributed to that. I think most people.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've not been on that one, I must admit.
Well, one question I would ask to Dave, being you've done obviously quite a lot of miles in your car, yeah?
Yeah.
What problems have you had? Have you had any problems? It'd be nice to know I know we've all had the BMS issue and the bombs and stuff like that, but have you had any mechanical, technical problems?
Who, me?
No, Dave Bell.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I've only had one slight problem, and that's failed sensors on the rear of the car. You know, the parking sensor. That's all, and that's just on any car.
Right. No, it's an interesting, because how many miles have you driven now?
Not that many in this one. I've only had about 7,000 miles.
Okay.
Because pandemic.
Yeah, I've done 14,000 now, and other than the BMS, absolutely nothing. Great.
BMS.
I think it's important, apart from you, Dave Stewart, excuse me.
Dave.
Anyway, Stuart, Jeff Cartwright's just answered your query. If it's a ZS, it's got no fog lamps, and if it's got spots, it's an ICE car.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no fog lights on the EV.
Yeah.
Unless it's white with a red grille, in which case it's a limited edition petrol version that they did, which didn't have fog lights.
There we go. Come on, Jeff, get your facts right.
Come on, Jeff. You never put that down in your thread. Come on.
Yeah, come along.
One problem that does seem to be cropping up on the forum from time to time, and I think you've had it as well, Stuart, I'm not 100% sure, but I think you've had it, is the squealing from the brakes when reversing.
Any EV.
Oh no, Miles covered this off last time. It's because the engine. Oh no, the motors are really quiet.
I know, but what I'm saying is, I've never had it until the day before yesterday, and now I can't shut it up every time I go backwards. It's true.
The next door's cat's missing.
The other complaint I have now is that now it's getting a bit warmer. I'm using the aircon, and the fan's blowing. The fan's really noisy, but that's because the engine isn't.
Yeah.
And also one of the things you can do on the MG5, obviously you've got auto climate control.
Yeah.
On the MG5 you can select in the center menu whether you want auto to be low fan, medium fan, or high fan. So you can adjust it in there in the settings if you wish to as well.
Yeah. So every little noise now I probably would have heard in a diesel car, but it didn't hear it because it was drowned out by the diesel engine. So there you go. So, right, okay. So anything else anybody wants to add, or should we go on then, Dave?
Yeah, I just want to say we're seeing a few more Ecotricity new model pumps out there. We just had one put in on the Junction 10 M42 where there wasn't even CCS before. So that's just gone in day before yesterday.
Are they updated on their app as well? I guess they are.
It's not yet on the app. It's on free vend at the minute.
Okay.
And it's 5 minutes from my house.
Oh, lovely.
Jeff Cartwright wants to know.
On that the other day, then.
Sorry, Dave wants to know where is that if it's a free vend. He'll be down there.
Junction 10.
Miles, Jeff Cartwright wants to know how many of these white and red were sold. So.
A few hundred. There are more ZS EVs out there, but they are just white with a red grille, so they're easy to identify.
Okay.
There's a lot of detail in that, isn't there? Right. Okay. Let's wrap it up. And as we've gone over, we've gone well over the hour yet again. So that seems to be the theme, doesn't it? Okay. So before we go, there's a few things I want to bring to everyone's attention. So if you haven't seen the chance to get a £25 voucher for completing an EV owners survey and joining the plugged in community, head over to the MGZS EV forum and have a read of the sticky threadbare. Please have a look at the merchandise that we've got that we're all not wearing. Maybe we should start wearing it too.
We miss Mike for that, don't we?
Yeah, indeed we do. We've added quite a few new options in the last few weeks. Please check it out, and to make it easier, there's a link to the shop on the forum menu. And again, to all MG EV drivers in Scotland, there's a bunch of you meeting up on a bunch of us, should it be, because we are a community, aren't we? So there's a bunch of us meeting up on Sunday, the 11th of July at 1 p.m.
It sounds like you should read with that with a Scottish accent.
It doesn't coincide with the Scotland Euro game.
Yeah.
Probably not if it's the second round.
That's a point. That's a good point.
Don't worry, we'll be out by then.
No, that's one of the game. That's one of the games you've got to play. Actually, yeah,
Played very well against France.
Yeah, you're committed.
Also, was it France or Netherlands?
Netherlands.
Netherlands, yeah.
I just wondered where I was for that. Unfortunately, I can't make it because I'm actually on a staycation cruise leaving that day, so I won't be on that. Right. Anyway, so finally, if you'd like to support us, please consider the MG EVs Forum Premium membership for just £3 a month. It gives you the Premium member badge, the ability to upload a profile banner, the ability to select the red MG theme. I've got it. It's very smart. And a discount code for the MG EVs merchandise, a full 10% discount when you see the code. And you're helping to support this community and the podcast that we really enjoy doing. That's it for this week's MG EVs podcast. My thanks to Dave Stewart.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Thanks to John Griffiths.
Yeah. Thanks for listening and watching, everybody. Thank you.
Nice to see you. Les Burrows.
Thank you, everybody. See you again.
And our new member of the pod, Dave Bell.
Cheers, everybody.
And a special thanks to Miles Roberts from the Chorley Group.
Always a pleasure, guys. Thank you.
And goodbye from me. See you next time. Look forward to seeing you all.